Hello and welcome to the show. With Forza 7's release right around the corner, I was fortunate enough to be invited to a showcase event and get a chance to play through the first sort of 45 minutes, an hour of the game and record my various exploits. We're going to start today by taking a look at the career mode. And, well, with the opening kind of showcase of races, as with any Forza game, you start out the game, and it's going to give you a few fast cars to go and drive around some of the fancier circuits, or new circuits in this case. The demo is coming out today. I believe it might be out, or about to come out at the time this video goes up. You may well be getting a chance to play these events yourself. The first is at the Dubai circuit with the new Porsche 911 GT2 RS. We skip ever so slightly off from the start because I was busy faffing around with assists and control schemes and getting the controller where I wanted it, what I was used to driving with Forza, shall we say. Of course, naturally, all the assists were going to be turned off. Now, I have nothing against fictional racetracks in games. I know there are people that are not particular fans of them. To be fair, some of my very favourite race circuits have been fictional ones from the Forza series. The New York circuit with the chicanes from Forza 3 I still maintain is one of the best racetracks there is. I also always loved racing around Iberian. Dubai is an interesting track. It's certainly not going to rate up there with New York or Iberian, but it's a fun enough circuit to drive around. It's almost split into two halves. The first is relatively slow as it kind of weaves its way up a hill. Relatively slow, relatively narrow. Not terrible, but yeah, relatively on the slower side, shall we say, as it wheels its way through the opening parts. But you can kind of see from the track map, it then speeds up considerably through the later stages. I think it was the second time I had driven this circuit, so I didn't really know where I was going. on the most part, a little bit of a brush against the wall. It gets quite a lot quicker towards the end. Now there are some variants on this track. I would imagine here it'll loop itself back to the start-finish line for one of the variants. I didn't personally get a chance to have a go with those. There may be some variants that are, I say, more normal race circuits. Certainly for me, the kind of tracks that I will end up running, whether in versus community, whether it be in events and so on. This particular long layout is unlikely to make a feature. It's not kind of a conventional race circuit in many ways. It is as entertaining as it is to drive around, and it's an interesting kind of environment as well, something a little bit different. Yeah, not personally for me in terms of an actual race circuit. There might be some better shorter variants that I have to wait and see until we can have a go with those. But yeah, it's an interesting enough circuit to go driving around with the Porsche. We crossed the line to take a victory. Of course, the AIs in these showcase events relatively low on the difficulty spectrum. We move on to the second of these events with the great big Mercedes racing truck. I like my crazy racing vehicles, and quite frankly, on the crazy racing tree, I think the trucks are right at the very top. These are not slow either. These are not slow whatsoever. These would be visiting Mugello, a track making its return to Forza. I don't think I've been around Mugello since Forza 4. I'm trying to think of any other... No, I can't think of any other times I've raced this circuit. Never my favourite of the racetrack. It's always nice to see circuits make a return, see more circuits. Yeah, for me, it was never my favourite of the racetracks, but we're going to have a go with the big old trucks. Now, in these showcase events, the games seems like doing rolling starts. Don't worry, you can have standing starts. I got a very, very good start, or the AI got a poor one. I'm not quite sure which way. Either way, I was making my way up towards, well, first before we ever got to turn 1. I did actually go and have a look to see if there was something I could do to change the difficulty. Under assists, it was only your traction control, stability control, and so on. I didn't really expect there to be much in the showcase events. I thought I'd have a look just in case. Briefly, while I'm on the subject of assists, all the assists that you would expect are present, so you'll be able to find a setting that suits your particular skill level. You want traction control, stability control, racing line, they're all there, even down to the assisted steering, the assisted braking, and so on if you are very, very new to racing games. For me, of course, yeah, I have all the assists off, I have the racing light turned off, and so on. I'm also running manual and clutch. That might also have something to do with the speed that I got compared to the AI setting off, especially in trucks like these. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, you've got all your full accompaniment assists to help out your lesser experienced drivers. Handling physics wise, as I push my luck quite a lot around a very, very fast corner. If you've played Forza games previous, specifically Forza 6, things will feel very, very familiar to you. You'll be very, very comfortable going, which I had no adjustment time, no difficulty getting straight into this game. There are a couple of little differences. First of all, the grass and sand traps. While I can't say for every single circuit, on the tracks that I did experience, we don't have the horrible sticky grass where you run a little bit wide. You saw the corner, I stuck the rear wheel over the sand. The horrible sort of sticky grass that will slow you down. Can be quite dangerous in places on Forza 6. Nürburgring through the S is one particular part. You run over the curb, you hit the grass, it just stops your vehicle dead almost. I didn't see any of that as I tried. There used to be really nasty curbs around that chicane. There isn't anymore. I really threw my truck at it to see what happens. Yeah, there isn't any of those horrible, nasty sticky grass bits that I found. There may be on some other circuits. I didn't have time to go through every single possible circuit, but yeah, from what I saw, there was none around this Mugello circuit. As I take a relatively comfortable victory in the truck. Yeah, it was. I like the trucks. I do very much like the trucks. Would like to have more of a fight with the AI, but there we go. That was a victory. Our next of the events would head to Suzuka, another of the returning circuits, and of course there would be some of the, wet stuff. Now, weather, I'll get back to handling physics in a minute when we have a car driving. Weather is back and much more dynamic than it was in Forza 6. In 6 you set the weather to either be pissing it down with rain or completely and utterly dry. Those were your choices. As you can see, there's a lot more in terms of choices, whether it be in terms of time of day, in terms of lighting and so on, or whether it be in terms of the weather. Yeah, there's an awful lot more variety, and it wanted to throw you in at the very, very deep end with full-on race cars in a massive storm going on here at Suzuka. Again, another returning track and another one that was never my strongest of circuits. A lot of people love Suzuka. I've never really got on with this particular track. Again, I was going to have to try and make the most of it. Once more, we found ourselves in the, roughly in the middle. I'm saying roughly in the middle of the grid. I think we're about 10th from the 24-car grid. I was curious to see if I could repeat the same thing I did with the trucks. Get myself up towards the front before turn 1. Wasn't quite able to make that, although through the middle, 3 wide into the first corner is probably not the best of ideas. Not the safest of ideas. We made it work, but yeah, not the safest. Now, with the rain, there has been some fair changes. I was fiddling around with cameras to try and get one I was happy with. Much preferred being back behind the steering wheel. So the Audi leading the way got caught out on the on a wider line. I don't know if it got caught out on the puddles or whether it just made a mistake. Mistakes from the AIs do seem to be a lot more natural than we have seen in the past. Yeah, the way that the game deals with rain is a fair bit different. Once more, I haven't driven every single circuit. I can't speak for every single track, but standing water is slightly less of a thing, like the Puddle of Doom we have at Sebring, for example. That, I didn't see that level of standing water. Yes, it is very, very wet here at Suzuka, as I carry way too much speed and then go skating off the track. It is very, very wet indeed. It is very, very slippery, but we aren't aquaplaning through 50% of the corners. The car is on the track. The tyres are connected with the road. There's just not a huge amount of grip there. The car's quite lively. You'll see it wiggling around. I'm fighting a lot in the Nissan, but you would expect that a high-powered race car, no traction control, pouring rain, you'd expect for the car to be slithering and sliding its way around. But yeah, we don't quite have to contend with the horrendous aquaplaning. As much. The circuits that I drove in the wet, yeah, we didn't have that terrible aquaplaning. You can see the car once more wiggling its way as I try to get on the power. in terms of the way that the cars drive, as I was talking about with the truck, slightly. Yes, it is very familiar. There are small differences. Some of the race cars, some of the real light race cars. One of the races, or one of the things I didn't get to film, driving a Radical RXC, the crazy lightweight track car, feels like a very crazy lightweight track car. You feel every bump in the road as you are going on. You see the way that the Nissan bounces itself across the curb. It's a very enjoyable. It always has been. I'll be honest. The Forza handling system always has been a very, very good one to go driving with as I slither away out of the final corner. Yeah, the handling is great fun to go racing with. The cars present a real challenge, especially when the going gets on the rather soggy side. But yeah, your crazy lightweight track cars are gonna be bouncy. I say bouncy. You're gonna feel the bumps. You're gonna have potential issues at different circuits in different places. Whereas your big truck is gonna flatten curbs pretty much out of its way. So, after done the opening showcase events, I got very excited when I saw an option to homologate a car. I thought that meant it was to kind of strip it down and turn it into a kind of race version almost. It's not, sadly. It is just the new term for auto upgrade, basically, to a category. Categories, though, are broken up differently we're talking for the kind of single-player stuff. Cars are broken into the various classes for the various events, but those classes have different restrictions and perhaps more restrictive restrictions in many ways. I should mess around with different engines to see what there was. NASCAR engines back as a drag tyre, so I assume there'll be drag racing somewhere. However, yeah, for example, the category that this Mustang is in, you can't run higher than street tyres. You can't run more than a certain tyre width. You can't run more than a certain power, all while it's dealing with being in C-Class. It's not a case of just build the car to the top of C-Class. It's not even to the top of C-Class these cars are being built. It's 475 that it's going to. So there's a lot more room for specifics in the career mode championship, in the single player championships, to have these are your set of rules, and there could be some really interesting ones. As I said, I don't quite know what happens further on in the career mode, but there is potential for interesting restrictions. And your AI cars that you're going to be racing against, again, from the bits that I did, are built to that. That's the class, that's the rules that they are built to. Now, you can try and find a different way round, make up your PI and so on in different ways. Should be quite an interesting one to see how things pan out. There's plenty of stuff as well. Forza is known for having plenty of career mode races to get through. Now, I was all set to go off and use the Mustang, not realising that when I went into this, we were going to be given a free car. Now, I don't know if I'd selected a different championship, something with, maybe classic race cars, and I'd be given something free. I don't know if you always give it a free car at the start of them, or whether it's just the first one you do. There's probably a way of maximising the amount of kind of monetary value, but when I see a selection of classic muscle cars, I'm generally quite happy. The choices for me in this lot boil down to, do I get a Stingray that I know is probably going to be very good, or do I get a Charger because it's a Charger? And I went for the Charger route. I did also have a quick flick through to see if there was any different kind of materials, textures, and so on for the cars. I think it's all fairly similar. I didn't have a look at the paint booth, but I would imagine from everything I'd seen, it looks pretty much along the same lines. There may well be more decals added. I know nothing about painting. My artistic skills are zero, so yeah, I'd be no good even if I was looking at it. However, yeah, that's all along there. Interestingly, the pre-race screens are now slightly different. While it's loading up the game, you can actually go through and change the tuning setup on your car. This, again, played Forza 6, played Forza, that has been similar since Forza 3, I think, maybe even before that. It's your same sort of set of tuning done all very much in the same way, but you can do all of this in the pre-race screens. There's also bodies. I was curious if there's any interesting body kits. It was just put a 1,000 horsepower engine in it with a supercharger sticking out the top, and yeah, that doesn't fit in this class that we were racing with. But yeah, doing it all in a pre-race screen is interesting because it also has another pre-race screen here that you can still adjust your tunes and whatnot. Makes me hopeful that there will be something similar when it comes to multiplayer. Makes me hopeful that you'll be able to adjust the setup of your car in the in the lobbies. It may be in between races. Would be quite a helpful little feature. I also made sure I got the driver tire difficulty on the highest. I also made sure that the sort of restrict aggression was turned off. So this is as aggressive as the AI are going to get. Now, this was another race was going for a rolling start for the race at Daytona. Kind of makes sense really for the Daytona. Either way, we were in and underway, starting from the middle of the pack. Things got a little bit bumpy on the run into the first corner. I was curious to see how the AI were going to fare. I've always been a fan of the driver tires. They make races interesting. They can often be quite chaotic, but they made single-player races spectacular in many, many ways. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the considerable worse. Now, things got a little bit messy. It was mostly my fault. At the start of this ride, I threw my car up the inside, I think like turn 3, and the rear of my car got caught on the front of the white car, whatever it was. I think it was a Javelin, and we got connected, and I couldn't steer away from it, and there was a car stuck on the outside of him. The Hemi Cuda was stuck out there. However, on the most part, the AI were actually doing a very, very good job of dealing with that situation. They weren't doing really ridiculous stuff. Now, I got a little bit forced down through this corner, so I decided to return the favour, push the Holden out wide. The Holden was not giving up. The Holden really did not give up on the outside. Clonked into the side of my car, rejoining, but no harm was really done between all of us. We got away with it. Yeah, a little bit of paint was swapped. I think I had damage on simulation as well at this stage, so you can get away with some some bumping without having your car completely destroyed. The vehicles also didn't ping off one another. How on earth it'll work on with internet connections with potential little bit of lag, I don't know, but yeah, we kind of survived all of that contact without too much of an issue as I would go soaring past on the inside at this banked circuit. Now, if I was building this car, I would have built it differently. So the way the 3 car was given automatically suited to this class. Not the way that I would build the vehicle. You're building a car for Daytona, I'd run it at as much power as I could possibly get away with. Admittedly, I couldn't go more than 450 because, well, that was what the class limit for this was. But yeah, I would perhaps build this car a slight bit differently. Certainly want something with a bit more straight line speed. 2 laps, not a huge amount of time to try and work your way through the pack here. Yeah, either way, the car might not be massively well suited to my driving, but it was interesting watching. Certainly, even watching the way the AIs interacted with one another. You saw up ahead the blue car had a look at the inside of the Daytona. Couldn't quite get the move done, but it looked like a natural overtaking attempt. The Javelin actually comes across a little bit to try and defend from me, squeezes me to the inside, doesn't force me off the road though. And again, I give him space through the next corner. I don't get a big clonk on the inside. Once more, he's giving me space. I get a better drive, can get across ahead of him. You can watch it in the rearview mirror as well. AI cars fighting with one another. They're going side by side through corners pretty neatly. Yeah, there's always likely to be a little bit of bumping in the early stages of the race, but on the whole, especially if I make a small mistake and do something stupid, but on the whole, yeah, actually racing against the AIs was very good fun. Again, can only speak from the bits that I did, but the AIs they put up a good fight. They put up a fair fight though. I haven't seen them do anything massively horrendously derpy either, which is always good. Didn't see any big kamikaze dive bombs and anything stupid like that. They were just racing hard. So positives, definitely much better than the often derpy driver tars from previous games, and yeah, still making the single player races exciting. I ran out of time to do too much about getting any further up the order, with the Dodge was gradually catching the car ahead, but a poor run onto that back straight, and yeah, lost all the momentum. We'd have to settle in the end for a 7th place. That, though, is going to be it for this opening look at Forza 7. There will be a little bit more footage coming tomorrow, so again, keep an eye out for that one. However, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.